and we are good to go. So, is this Kitchen Table Talks? Is that the official name?
I think that works for us, doesn't it?
I think it works. I like it. Let's make sure we're both speaking up, because I don't want us to... I'll put this a little closer to you.
So I'm supposed to talk in my normal, not indoor voice?
Right. Your teacher voice. Use your teacher voice.
Okay. This is about as good as it's going to get.
Oh. Because allergies?
I'm tired.
Oh. I can't imagine why you'd be tired. It's not like we've had anything going on these past couple weeks.
Well, that and all the cleaning up and getting organized and, doing nothing during the pandemic.
Obviously. Because, you know what is weird? I never thought doing nothing would be so exhausting.
And it was. Just mainly because you get very used to just sitting there and, like, surfing Netflix.
Yeah. And then the moment you have to get up and go to the grocery store, you're like, yeah. What
do you mean go to the grocery store? Click list, buddy.
Oh, yeah. That's my job now.
I literally drove up and, like, put it in the trunk. Just put it in the trunk.
And even that was probably like...
I was exhausted. I had to nap for hours after that. Not quite, but I did discover that about every day at 3 I needed a nap.
That's funny.
At school, I could always fight it off because there were other things to do. But here at home, like over the pandemic, like, it's about... I'm getting sleepy. But, wait, look, it's about 3. Okay, I'm just going to nap.
I have to. I got up at 9 today. I mean, can you imagine getting up that early? I need a nap now.
Yeah, there were a few times I slept like 3:30. I pass out in the recliner, wake up at 6:30 at night, and I'm like, I didn't do anything. How am I this tired? Like, why do I need a 3-hour nap?
We'll just say it was, you mentally were so exhausted because you were working so hard mentally.
Yes, with the remote learning.
Yes, exactly. Well, and it takes a lot of mental effort to keep those Netflix shows in order.
It does. And then pushing the little button when it says, "Are you still watching?" Yes, go away.
I always feel like that's really insulting. Are you still watching? Are you still that much of a slob?
Are you still there? Like, go out and
don't you have
something.
Anything better to do?
Do you have friends? Go out.
No, I don't have friends because all my friends were teachers. Now we can't see each other anymore.
Wait, what are you doing at my house then? Get out.
Yeah, we're not friends anymore. We're not friends at all.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I feel weird talking to the audience.
Right, I get it.
Yeah. But, so, I guess it's episode 1.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about doing this for ages, and, all the people we've told to were like, oh, you should do that! And, now here we are. So...
Because we actually have some free time, because, the world's burning and sick with the pandemic. And so we have free time.
So, yeah, if you're not, coughing, you're on fire.
Yes. So, or maybe both.
Especially if you're in California. There's on fire all the time. Not that we're laughing about, people burning down. That's sad. But, Anyway, if you're listening to this is... these are... do we want to go through the guidelines of stuff that we're not going to do? Or do we just want to get into the...
We'll just get into it.
All right. So, yeah, episode 1. This is just us having a conversation. I guess we're just talking about random crap that we find interesting. And if you find it interesting too, welcome. If you don't find it interesting, listen. And maybe you'll get smarter somehow. Or maybe you'll get dumber. I don't know. Maybe you'll lose brain cells by listening to us.
I do.
Thanks a lot. Example A. But yeah, so we just got done talking about prepping for what's coming. I don't think it's now that the podcast has restarted, let's just jump right into the fun, light, non-controversial stuff. Bad times are coming.
Yeah, I was thinking about this even before all the riots and stuff, that being prepared for things isn't a bad thing, and certainly this pandemic revealed a lot of weakness in how we here in America do things. Like the supply chain. Think of how long it was just trying to buy toilet paper because everybody panicked as soon as they were shutting schools down. Again, respiratory virus, I need poop paper. Okay, not my first choice, but sure.
Like I told everybody, unless you're also buying an inordinate amount of beans, I have no respect for you if you buy that much toilet paper.
Well, I did like the meme that talked about the reason why people needed so much toilet paper is for a lot of people, this is going to be the first time they've eaten their own cooking in years. And that's probably right. But sitting here at Silver Maple Corner, over the course of the quarantine, I discovered certain things that I thought I was well stocked up on that I was not. It ranged from things that I use every day or just about like macaroni and cheese. I will eat macaroni and cheese every day if I have the option. The problem is that means you go through a lot of boxes of mac and cheese. But there were other things like kitty litter. I got a cat or two, and they need a place to do their business. Never thought about that before because I could always just run to the store at any moment and grab kitty litter.
Yep.
All of a sudden, not only did people buy a lot of toilet paper, they also, weirdly enough, bought a lot of kitty litter because apparently if you're home more, your cat will poop more. I don't know how it worked, but...
I'm sure science has an answer for that.
But literally, every Kroger in the area, shelves were completely empty of kitty litter except for like the little bitty emergency bag... Like, it's about the size of a bag of M&Ms that I'm not sure...
By the way, is it just me, or is it weird that all of these emergency supplies come in, like, the tiniest of containers?
Yes.
Because in a real emergency, you're not going to need to wash your hair more than once or twice.
Well, yeah, because, it's the apocalypse. Well, you don't need to look good.
That's right.
So, I started thinking about it. I started watching what I was using, what I wasn't. Let's be honest.
I'm sure a lot of people listening to this probably, like, their families had to go through something very similar.
Well, just toilet paper and, like, Clorox wipes were impossible to find up until, toilet paper, a month ago, maybe?
I don't know. The Kroger by my house usually, like, for a while, they were out of toilet paper for maybe a few days, but for a while now, they've had stuff in stock. But it seems like people have brand preferences, and you want to wipe your butt with just the right material.
Right. Well,
so I don't know what I mean.
But Clorox wipes, like one of my friends just posted on Facebook about the fact that they found enough wet wipes at Kroger that they could buy 2 of the big tubs, and it was like gold.
Christmas, Merry Christmas, everybody.
I mean, even now, I think there's still a shortage of meat in a lot of places.
Kroger does have a lot of meat shortages. Now it's weird if I need pork, I can find it in some form, but like. As they're filling orders, like the stuff that they want's just not there.
So is that a thing that happens to you a lot? You're just sitting around and you're like, I need pork.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I need just or I need crackers. I don't care what kind.
But for the most part, we're used to if we need it, we just go to the store and buy it.
Yeah.
And coronavirus kind of put a damper on that. You couldn't just drive down to the store, and even if you did get down there, they might not have what you actually needed. So what do you do if you don't have it?
Yep.
Flip side of that is all the panic buying we saw was the result of people that didn't have anything already stocked up at home, and suddenly they were faced with, we're going to be at home for 3 weeks? Oh, I need toilet paper and beef and tacos.
And we're looking back at that now, and we're like, I wish it was only 3 weeks.
Right.
I mean, we felt so bad of like 3 weeks ago, when it was 3 weeks, and now it's been like, what, months? A couple months now? 2 months? Almost?
Yeah. Let's see.
3 months, actually?
It started in March. March 13th.
March, April, and today's May 4th?
No, this is June 4th.
No, sorry, wow.
So we're
it's
working
been a blur.
We're working kind of on 4 months now. So, I was a Boy Scout, so I was always taught be prepared. That's one of the core maxims. So,
I'm still trying to figure out how I missed a month.
Well,
like, did I just black out or something?
It does all blur together after a while.
Yeah, especially when all you're doing is sitting at home.
Like, it's the 40th of March, and I mean it does.
Well, I know my girlfriend and I were talking like just a couple days ago how it's like we don't even know what day of the week it is anymore.
Yeah, I have to think about it periodically.
I don't even know. Like, it says on my computer right here that it's Thursday. That's the only way I know. My phone even forgets sometimes. I think Google's going insane with the rest of us.
Well, okay. So really the question is...
I left you a door there and you didn't walk through it.
If suddenly you couldn't go to the grocery store, how would you feed your family? How would you supply for your family? I don't know that a lot of people think about that in their day-to-day lives because here in America, as much as we get a bad rap for being consumer-driven and capitalist and all this, you walk into the grocery store virtually any day, you can get everything you want.
Certainly well more than anything you need.
Yeah, the absolute worst case scenario is you got to go with the Little Debbie sweet rolls instead of the Hostess ones.
Well, I don't know if you saw what I saw in certain Kroger's around the area, but when I went in to buy mac and cheese one time, all of the Kraft mac and cheese was gone. But then it had the Kroger brand for like 69 cents on the shelf, and nobody wanted that because it's not Kraft.
I would say
I bought like 10 of them.
I was gonna say the Kroger generics are usually pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. How do we want to talk about this?
I don't know. I will say just one more thing in terms of the piggybacking on what you said is one of the journalist commentators I listen to by the name of Tim Pool. And if you don't know who he is, go check him out. He's actually really good. I get a lot of news from him, even though I don't agree with him all the time. But he is also, he's been kind of a prepper a little bit. And he doesn't do very many promo spots, but one of the few promo spots he started doing back in March was like prepper meals. Like buy this dry food, the stock food for bad times, because bad times are coming. And he was saying that even, I would argue he was saying that even in January or maybe even in December, because he saw this in advance quite a bit. And he said, people are laughing at me. People are making fun of me. Oh, what are you going to do? You're going to be one of those preppers? You're going to be a doomsday prepper? And, people like to make fun of that. But, now look where we are. Like, almost no one is making fun of those people now.
No. Well, and I would argue here in America, we've had plenty for so long. I mean, there's a reason why we have an obesity epidemic, where even the poorest among us are not just well-fed, but overfed.
Yeah.
And I speak for myself as well.
It's okay. They can't see you. You don't have to say that.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's great because I have a face for radio and podcasts. But so you actually just brought up a couple interesting things. One of which is the idea that bad times are coming. The verses that I always talk to out of the Bible are the ones in Genesis about Joseph. He's in Egypt. The Pharaoh has a dream of 7 fat cows, and then 7 skinny cows come up and eat the fat cows. And he's confused by that, because who wouldn't be confused by fat and skinny cows eating each other? And he calls on Joseph, who has a reputation for being able to interpret dreams, and says, tell me what this means. And Joseph says, you're going to have 7 really good years as a nation. Your storehouses are going to be full. And then there's going to be 7 years, lean years of famine. And you should prepare for that. He actually goes on and says, hey, build more storehouses so you can store more of the extra and be ready for these 7 years. And the simple fact is the bad times always come eventually. My parents were born during the Great Depression. Literally, Mom grew up at times eating tomato sandwiches. And by that I mean
like literally tomato and bread
with a couple slices of tomato in the middle, maybe mayonnaise if they could, and that was it. Dad was to the point that because both of his parents and what he remembered growing up late in the Depression, early in World War II, is you didn't throw anything away because you might need that later. Like, there was a time where if you needed nails, you couldn't just go down to the hardware store and buy nails, because even if they had them, you didn't have enough money to buy them because they were so expensive.
Right.
Well, it's been a long time since we've really had that here.
I would argue we were potentially going there in that direction during 2008, that whole crash. The recession was pretty bad for a lot of people.
It was, and you noticed that's where a lot of these food pantries popped up.
Yep.
And because people give. And so if you're of the mindset that nothing bad is ever going to happen to me or my country or my town.
Right, because America.
You're delusional, really.
I agree.
I would argue every spring there are countless towns across this nation that get tornadoes come whipping through them and go for days or weeks without electricity.
Well, yeah.
People don't have food because there's no food to get.
There were tornadoes during the pandemic. Like, where was it? Was it Tennessee? Was it?
Yes, I think it was Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, Tennessee. There were actually people who, because of the pandemic and because of hearing people like Tim Pool say, buy extra stuff, they bought for the pandemic. But when the tornado hit, they had stuff.
Right.
They were ready to go.
Well, honestly, the idea of being prepared is not a foreign concept for everybody that lives from about Houston, Texas, all the way down around up to somewhere in North Carolina.
I agree.
Because every hurricane season, they're ready for that. Because certainly, if you think a tornado can disrupt things, and it does. I mean, I've been through 2 of them now with 2 different towns, and it completely upends everything.
Mm-hmm.
A hurricane is a tornado that's a
For a long time.
And a couple hundred miles wide. So it's going to come through. Power lines are down. Literally, there are places that go months without power.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, I think one of the biggest things we've learned to live with is electricity, and we take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And,
absolutely.
And that's why even a simple power outage can devastate an area in terms of lifestyle, because we don't know what to do with ourselves if we don't have Wi-Fi. We don't know what to do with ourselves if we can't download Netflix. We barely even, we can't even keep our food, and those are, the less extreme parts of it. Like, if your power goes out, what happens to all the food in your fridge and your freezer? What happens? You can't microwave your food. You have to learn. You literally have to learn how to make a fire if you don't have electricity.
Yep. But back in 2008, Hurricane Ike hit and then came sweeping through the Midwest as a windstorm.
Yeah, I remember that. That was not a good day.
Power out everywhere. My dad and I were out of power for about a week. He lost the freezer in his fridge was packed full, like wall to wall full of stuff. Every bit of it was lost because
sucks.
All the power was gone. So right now we're in those 7 years of plenty.
You think we still are?
I think we are.
Even with the pandemic and the whole economic shutdown?
Yes.
Because I can guarantee you we were, before the pandemic hit, we were at the zenith of that growth. We were getting right to the tip of that.
Well, and when I say 7, I don't necessarily mean exactly 7 years.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Because,
but we probably should clarify that.
We have plenty. The supply lines are kind of opening back up again. There's the issues with getting meat still, which is a concern because protein is important.
And we're going to see kind of like this delayed reaction, kind of like if you think of the entire country as a body, and if one part gets hit, it takes the pain sensation a while to travel from one part of the body to the brain, and then from the part of the brain to communicate to the rest of the body. So we're going to be experiencing the effects of this, I think, for months and months to come, even if it's on the upturn.
Right. And I would say that the thing that I have really thought about the last few weeks, and that I think God was impressing upon me, was the fact that this pandemic was our warning, maybe our last warning, to be prepared. And I know there's a thought in Christian circles that God will provide. All we have to do is pray. Because there's that verse that talks about the flower. Even Solomon wasn't as dressed as nicely as the flowers, and the birds don't. And so
I hate gardening, by the way. I hate it. Just want to put that out there on the record.
But the idea is that God's just going to magically drop food to you all the time anyway. And while I have known people in my life and have been the recipient even of miraculous provision, like literally somebody showing up like, hey, do you need food? Here's food. Oh, how did you know I had food? I just kind of felt you needed food. Oh, okay.
Can you do that to me with Taco Bell?
No. I've literally had somebody walk up. I was right on the edge. This isn't food, but I had bills that I had to pay. I was unemployed. I needed $200 exactly, immediately. Couldn't get it. had actually gotten kind of cocky with my pastor at the time. Mm-hmm. Like, we'll see. And I didn't tell anybody how much money I needed. Because if you say, I need $200, and somebody comes up and says, God told me to give you $200, not really that much of a miracle because they knew you needed it.
Right.
When somebody doesn't know that you need $200, walks up, puts money in your hand and says, here, God told me you needed money. And it's $200.
And it's exactly what you need.
That'll get your attention.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's part, don't get me wrong. I am not saying God caused the pandemic, that this is God's judgment or whatever. No. Mm-hmm. But what I am saying is I think this serves as a warning. If you struggle during this pandemic to feed yourself and your family, mm-hmm. or to have toilet paper, cat food, anything that soap, whatever, this is your warning that while times are good, you should be stocking up on that.
And you know what, by the way, in addition to that, I would like to point out, do not rely on that stimulus check to come around every time to bail you out of this. Because we spent, I don't know how many $3, $4 trillion on that stimulus check, on that whole stimulus package. It kept the entire country going for maybe 4 weeks.
Right.
If that.
Well,
and so if you want to talk about this long term on like, well, yeah, but the government can just give us money. No, they can't. There's not enough money on planet Earth to do that for any length of time in this country. Well, it's just not going to happen.
And there's a poem by Rudyard Kipling called The Gods of the Copybook Headings. And at one point it talks about we had all the money we wanted, but nothing to buy with it.
Yep.
You look back,
That's
again,
right.
Go back to the Great Depression. People might have had money, but, the one story that stands out in my head is you couldn't buy eggs. The only people that were eating eggs were people out on the farms that had chickens.
And they weren't selling their eggs to anybody because they needed them.
Right. You get, to the Weimar Republic over in Germany right before World War II. Literally, a loaf of bread cost a wheelbarrow of cash. That's not an exaggeration. There are pictures of people with an actual wheelbarrow full of cash. There are pictures of the gutter of the street full of cash because that's all it was worth. Nothing. Even in this pandemic, how many times did you have money, but what you wanted to buy or needed to buy at the school or at the store wasn't there? I know, like I said, I eat a lot of mac and cheese, so when I started running low, I'm like, I should buy more mac and cheese. Oh, look, 3 different grocery stores, no mac and cheese because everybody else in the world is buying it. I also eat a lot of peanut butter and jelly. Went looking for peanut butter. Guess what? Gone, because everybody was home from school and everybody needed peanut butter. Luckily, I had enough.
Yeah, I know. I'm really hoping that this whole situation is... Because I think that's one of the weaknesses of the generations coming up after, and probably my generation as well. Millennials. What are you going to do? Yeah, I'm sorry for my people. I apologize on our behalf. Don't know what else I can do, but yeah, like that. I don't know if this. I hope this taught us that just having money is not like people like to say, oh, the rich. Yeah, well, just having money doesn't give you what you need. Like it doesn't matter if you are, working for like whatever it was, 26,000, 27,000 a year, barely making ends meet to pay the bills, or you're Serena Williams, who has gobs of money more than I can ever imagine seeing in my bank account in my possession. If we both go to the same grocery store to buy mac and cheese and there's nothing there, it doesn't matter how much richer she is than me, there's nothing to buy.
Yeah.
And so just the government giving us money, or anybody just giving us money, or even us just making lots of money, that guarantees nothing, barely guarantees nothing in good times, and it's absolutely worthless in times like the ones that are here or coming.
Yeah.
And so money in and of itself is worthless.
Yeah.
There is no worth to money. What was it? The example I heard on, can't remember if it was Twitter or Instagram, I saw a while back, where someone said, how much water can you buy with a bar of gold in the apocalypse? And the answer is none, because no one wants your gold. They need water. You need to and basically the explanation was you have to have something valuable to trade. and in really bad times and in really hard times.
Yeah, in survival situations.
Right. No one wants gold or money because you can't eat anything with that. You can't. Money and gold are luxuries that a healthy civilization uses.
Yeah, or at least one that has stuff. Like,
right.
You're absolutely right.
Like if I make a pointy stick and you need a pointy stick to keep the dogs out of your house at night, I'll be like, hey, I made this pointy stick. I'll give you this pointy stick if you give me an apple. There's our economy. We just made an economy right there.
Yep.
And that's that's the direct result of my labor that I have created pointy sticks for the neighborhood. And in return for those pointy sticks, someone gives me apples from their apple tree that they're growing in their backyard with their own resources. So it's really like your effort and your labor are what get you the resources you need, and money at some point just became a medium and an intermediary between labor and goods.
Exactly.
And so you're late. We're getting. I personally think that we will get to a point where a lot of people are going to find that they want to get something for money, but in reality, they're going to need to put labor in instead to get that something. And because they're so lazy, they're not going to want to put in any more labor to get the thing than they would put in to get the money. And it's not going to work.
Absolutely.
Do I have to edit out those clicks that you made with your pen just now?
No.
Because that's going to be really pain.
But
we're such trolls sometimes.
So the issue then becomes, now that coronavirus was starting to break, we're all going to open up again. Everything was going to be great. Everything's going to be back. And if you haven't watched the news lately, I don't recommend watching the news because it's enraging, depressing, saddening, maddening, all of that.
Yeah, no matter what side you're on.
Yeah. It's horrible things are happening, and they're happening a good number of places.
Mm-hmm. By the way, before you finish that thought, I want to give a shout out to all the people in our area that protested peacefully and didn't cause trouble.
Oh yeah,
I want to absolutely thank them for displaying their liberties as American citizens without using that liberty to cause trouble for literally everyone else around them who has nothing to do with why they're here. So I'm very happy that they did that, and I am much more likely to go join them in that than I would be if they were causing trouble like others are. So very happy about that.
At this point, there are places in America, again, where you can't buy food. So, like, even if you have money, there's literally no place to buy it anymore. Like we were talking earlier about the Nashville thing. Even in Nashville, from tornadoes, it just happens. There's even worse than that. Even if we're not talking about some colossal, nation-shaking upset, what if you lose your job and you don't find one for 6 months? How are you going to eat? Because anybody that's ever been on unemployment knows that that's really not covering the bills even, let alone... Mm-hmm. So, I know a few years back when I left my job outside, I worked outside, and I left my job, and I didn't get a job for a number of years because it was bad timing on my part. I left in 07. 08 was the crash, and nobody was hiring, and it was just awful.
That's pretty bad.
But I had bought a lot of food and the stuff that I eat and had it around. So I didn't have to worry about food, because, at least for a while, because I already had that. And I think that's where we're at now, is even though there are horrible things going on, and there always are, because the world is fallen and sinful, and this is... But right now, mostly our supply lines are getting back to normal. And if you decide you want to buy a dozen boxes of Kraft mac and cheese, you can walk into most stores today, and they'll have it. Where as little as 2 or 3 weeks ago, they did not.
Mm-hmm. And like, we've seen that with all these goods with panic buying. I saw this. I kind of saw this coming, and I was trying to warn people about it. And I went into Costco about maybe 2 weeks before the shutdown happened, and people went nuts. and I bought a massive bunch because it's Costco. You can't buy anything small there.
If you do, it's just there's lots of small things.
Right. And I'm pretty sure you're required to spend $20 for 400 items if you go there any one time. But I went and I bought a massive thing of paper towels, a massive thing of toilet paper.
It was you.
It was me. I started all this. I'm such a trendsetter.
Yes.
But but no. So I saw it, and then I watched people go out and buy. Like, I didn't buy it because I was like, I am a prophet, and I have had a dream that for every 7 people, they will each buy 7 packs of toilet paper, and every 7 people will end up with 700. Like, I wasn't like being like,
right.
Like, I just like, oh, I need to go buy whatever I need now in bulk so that I have it.
Well,
just in the mentality
common sense and or pattern recognition are valuable skills. I've thought about writing extensively on this, actually, and I haven't because I'm doing other things. But the simple fact is, now while there's time, start buying food and supplies that you need.
Yeah. If
you can't make it back to the grocery store for a while. You mentioned earlier, Tim Pool talking about like the preparedness foods, like the MREs, that sort of thing. Those are great, but they're expensive.
Oh, that's definitely not something you're going to be buying weekly.
Like your price per meal, it is sky high.
Especially now.
Now, to be fair,
and there will be for a while.
Some of those will last 20 and 30 years. So, I mean,
we just put a ton of stuff away in your pantry that's like been in there for like we don't know how many years, maybe a decade or more, and
about
it's
a decade.
Still probably good for a reasonable amount of time coming.
Right.
So that's the kind of stuff that you want to buy once every month or so.
But even those aren't pre-prepared meals.
That's true.
We're talking in particular about powdered milk because if trucks are not running,
dude, you got a lot of powdered milk.
I do because I drink a lot of milk, and virtually everything I like to cook and eat involves milk.
That makes sense.
So one of the first things I had to do was, all right, if my mashed potatoes require milk, if my mac and cheese requires milk, if I just like drinking milk, I need to figure out a way to have milk even if there's no milk available. So I looked into powdered milk, and not just the little condensed milk stuff that you use for baking cakes.
No, you're like talking about jugs.
Yeah.
And like,
this is a huge
like
can.
Gallon cans.
They call it a number 10 can of stuff. And it will make gallons. I think 64 or 120 gallons of milk if I need to, each can. But so back on the cost thing, you can. I mean, you can go to beprepared.com and buy all the freeze dried stuff you want if you're rich, but that's difficult. What's not difficult is buying it all at the store. Mm-hmm. Like, for me, I just went to the store. Kraft mac and cheese is on sale. It usually is, 10 for 10. Do I have a good amount of mac and cheese already? Sure. Did I buy more boxes of it because it was on sale and I'm going to eat it anyway? Yes. Yeah. And I would say that if you have a budget, if you're not independently wealthy, so you can't buy everything today. Even if you could buy everything today, you wouldn't want to, but that's a different conversation probably. But whatever is on your grocery list that you like to eat, they all have, use by dates. They don't go bad instantly.
Right.
Buy a little extra. And then the next time, even if it's next week, and you're like, oh, look, this is on sale again. And you just buy a box or two because you don't need any. And you just do that all the time. For everything that you eat, there are some things you can't. Like, let's be honest, bread. You buy a lot of bread, you're going to have a lot of penicillin mold growing after a while. You could stick it in your freezer, but...
you solved the drug crisis.
But
you buy all the bread. And then...
But so, you just buy a little extra every time you go, and then not wait till you're out to buy more. And sooner or later, you have a little stockpile that can get you through at least a couple weeks. Yep. And let's be honest, how many people lost their job when everything closed, and then at least here in Ohio, trying to apply for unemployment? There's people that started like March 13th that just got through within the last week or two getting unemployment.
Well, see, then when I lost my job, I was looking into applying for unemployment, but then I there's no way I'm going to get anywhere with that in the time span that I needed to get through. And I had already saved, like, my stimulus check was still in the bank because I was like, oh, I need this for a mortgage.
Right.
But like at a certain point, I had to. I turned to my church and I was like, guys, my church has this thing called the benevolence fund, which is for people who've lost their jobs, who are waiting for unemployment but can't make it, and so I almost had to take money from them if I couldn't have found this other job.
Right, and that's awesome. And I think every church should have that.
Yeah, but not everyone has that.
And and so even these people that just got in within the last 2 weeks for unemployment. Well, sure, they're getting paid all the way back to March 13th, but that doesn't help them between March 13th and now. Even if you got it quickly, there were people that still had to wait 2 or 3 weeks to get their first check. If you are one of these people that only buys when you absolutely need it, or the millennial trend of, I shop every day. I take my little basket and I go through the grocery store every day and just buy what I need today. That sounds great. It sounds sustainable and reasonable and all that.
It's good for the environment.
But it's only possible when there's plenty. If there's any shortage, suddenly you're in trouble.
Yep.
And I know I've been doing this for
don't date,
17 years, 18 years.
Don't date yourself.
Okay. And, well, no, probably 10, 15. And
that's better.
Even I've, like I said, during this pandemic, found myself running short of things. Some things that I knew I'd need and had just gotten lax, like, I can always pick that up until I couldn't. Or things that it never even occurred to me. As I said earlier, kitty litter. When you're sitting around going, what will I need to survive the apocalypse? Most people, even if you have pets, don't think pet food and kitty litter or all that. But it's stuff you need. And
yep.
The thing is, I have to ask, do you think times are going to get better or worse? I mean, eventually they will get better.
I think eventually, but we've talked about this before in terms of what direction we think the country's going from here. Personally, I often joke with people like, this is why America's best days are behind us. I usually say it when someone like forgets to put cheese on a cheeseburger or something. But, you know, like...
The horror!
Yeah.
Horror!
I mean, if you're not smart enough to put cheese on a cheeseburger, I don't know how we can let you vote, but, you know.
Yeah.
But I really do think that... I gotta be honest. In terms of America's best days, while that may be rather subjective, I don't see our country ever getting back to what it, A, is supposed to be, and B, what it could be. I see a lot of potential there, but I don't see any good path to get to that potential. But I do see a lot of paths that lead in the opposite direction. And I think that at this moment in this country, we are maybe not running headlong down one of those paths, but I think we are walking pretty briskly down one of them. And I think we'll stop at some point eventually, and we may not walk too much farther down this specific one, but I think we're just going to hop over to another one and go further down that one.
Well, yeah, and I think that boils back around to what I said is, this is our warning. Like, if a bad storm comes through and knocks out the power and, you know, knocks down limbs in your yard, maybe blows the gazebo over, the storm passes, you fix the gazebo, you cut up the tree, whatever, but you know that there's going to be another storm coming.
Yeah, and more importantly, you have people there to help you.
Right. If at this point you're looking at, and again, this isn't necessarily a political point of view as much as it's just a reality. If you're looking around you and saying, things are only going to get better from here, and there's never going to be a problem, there's never going to be a hardship, there's never going to be anything that's an issue, you're just wrong. Like,
yeah, I think you're
there's thousands of years of history
you're either absolutely ignorant and maybe willfully stupid, or you are so terrified of this reality that you're burying your head in the sand. And I can sympathize with that to a degree.
Right, but I would argue that if you take the steps to get prepared at least a little bit, that takes some of the fear away.
Yeah.
And I've actually heard people say, "Oh, you're stocking up for Armageddon. You're just that scared." No, but I've lived through enough now. Like, I've lived through 2 tornadoes, a huge hurricane-level windstorm. I have lived in areas that had hurricanes that didn't actually get much there. I've lived in a place that literally got so much rain that virtually an entire mountain slid down and wiped out an entire valley. It literally, a hurricane stopped right. It was in Virginia. Die? No, I wasn't there. But I lived in the area.
Okay,
it happened like back in the early 1900s. But it just parked over this one county for days, and all the dirt on a mountain literally got so soaked it just slid down in the valley and killed hundreds of people. Okay, so at some point you either have to go, well, if God's going to kill me that way, he's going to kill me that way. Well, okay, that's fine. But especially for adults, if you've got kids, are you really of the mindset of it's okay for my kids to starve as long as I can pay cable now instead of buying a little extra mac and cheese to have around?
Well, hey, you gotta get to HBO.
Well, yeah, but the problem is God says very clearly that if you don't supply for your family,
you're worse than an unbeliever.
Yes, yeah, you have denied the faith. You have turned your back on Jesus and
Peter,
walked away.
I'm pretty sure that's 2 Peter.
So,
that might be 1 Peter.
And then the other thing I always get is, well, Jesus said not to worry about what you'll eat or drink and all that, and he did.
He did.
And
not to be anxious. Well, actually, hey, let's put some context into this. Don't be anxious for anything. So we're not supposed to be anxious about it. We're not supposed to worry about it. But he never said not to do anything about it. Well, one of the verses we were talking about was Proverbs 6. And I want to read that real quick. Go to the ant, O sluggard, consider her ways and be wise. We all know that verse. So I hope that the vast majority of people listening to this have heard that verse before. In fact, if you've been in my classroom in the last 5 years, you have heard that verse before. But it continues, and I think it is rather relevant for our times now. But it continues, without having any chief officer or ruler, she prepares her bread in summer and gathers her food in harvest. How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little slumber. I'll do it tomorrow. A little folding of the hands to rest. It'll be fine. I'm just going to sit here. And poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want will come like an armed man. And I only say it's relevant, because there are people now who have had things taken from them by other people. So it's not just natural disasters. People can turn on each other. It's one thing when and I don't know, maybe for other people this isn't as eye-opening, or like it doesn't maybe put you on edge, but I was never scared of the virus. I was scared of the reaction to it. I was nervous about the crazy people going nuts and like potentially going and taking things from other people because they didn't have enough. That's what concerned me. That's what made me start getting my bug out bag ready. That's what made me make sure I knew where my safe was in my house. And now we see whatever statement you want to make about the politics of it, there are people in this country now who have lost their entire life's work because of other human beings.
Oh yeah.
And
let's be
nature
honest.
Is sometimes not as scary as the fact that other people with intent to harm you are coming after you.
Let's be honest. If I had told you back in March that there's going to be a virus, and because of that, Wendy's are going to close for a while because they don't have enough hamburger, you would have laughed at me.
Yeah.
Yet that happened.
Yep.
Because the virus infected people that work at the plants where they process the cows into hamburger patties, and so those plants could not do that. Okay, it has rebounded fairly quickly, but meat prices are still through the roof. What if that had gone on for a month or more? There's already newspaper articles out there that because of coronavirus, there's going to be famines throughout various third world countries.
The United Nations said like 23% of the world could starve or something like that.
So, is that what you're looking for? Like, if you're like, I want to not have food and have to dig through people's garbage then don't do anything.
Yeah.
But another
congratulations, we're here.
But another part beyond just the simple taking care of us and our families is the fact that Jesus makes it pretty clear. If someone is around you is hungry and in need of food or clothing or whatever, you should give it to them. Now, James technically says if you have this stuff, you should help them. Mm-hmm. Well, so there's the point.
Yeah.
If you're prepping, it shouldn't be just to supply enough food for you and your family.
Mm-hmm.
It's to help other people.
Yeah. I would also advise doing that in a very careful way, because if something like Armageddon does come, or even something appearing to be it does come, and you're like sit yourself outside, and like, here's my bottled water. Eventually, you're not going to have any bottled water, and you're going to have a really big lump on your head or a hole in your chest because someone decided they needed that more than you.
Right. It's certainly, if you're really stocking up and you're taking this seriously, like, okay, I'm going to have enough food for a year or whatever, you shouldn't be telling everybody that you're doing it, because I had this issue when I was a little more into it and lived in another city where I knew lots more people. I actually had people like, well, when the apocalypse comes, I'm going to his house. No, you're not. Now, if you have chipped in and provided it, bought some of your own stuff, and I'm storing it for you because I've got more space, then absolutely, yes.
Bricks, come over, I'll give you a gun, you stand at post, and I'll give you a glass of milk later.
And I know this sounds all very sci-fi and out there, but look up the website for any food pantry near you right now, and look at all the different food distribution times that are going on. What?
I'm actually going to do it.
But don't name names.
No.
But,
I'm going to say.
I'm
going to count up how many there are.
Well, the thing is, you see it on the news every night. Such and such food bank is having a food distribution event tomorrow, and they're all asking for donations because there's so many people on it. Right now, about a quarter of the working population of America is out of work. That means they don't have a real paycheck coming in. They're not able to buy all the food and pay their rent and their electricity and all that they normally do.
There are 20 of them within 5 miles of our location right now, and more than half of them are closed and asking for donations.
Yes.
That's a lot.
So this is your opportunity. I think this is our warning from God. Take stock. Take some time. What did you use a lot of? What did you use none of? Like, what was a waste? What just sat there and you're like, oh, I like my vegan tofu tacos, but yet over the last 3 months that tofu is still just sitting. I don't know. Is it refrigerated? I don't know where it goes because I don't even eat tofu.
I don't know, but if you're talking about a tofu taco, that is why America's best days are behind us.
Well, the fact that there's even a thing, but so what? Like, I myself sat down and made a list of things that I either needed more of or that I didn't know.
It's a pretty good list.
Oh, and I just saw that there was one that I didn't count.
Oh. Pen should go on the list, apparently.
Yeah, but apparently I need more pens because this one from the hospital doesn't work. But I've got at least 30 items that I discovered that I don't have enough of, or that I might need in a certain situation.
So pay attention, and
I'm not going to read.
You're not going to read it off.
But let's be honest. At one point, Clorox wipes were like worth gold.
Can I look at it?
Sure.
I won't say anything of it out loud.
Oh, there's nothing top secret, but clearly, if everybody's panic buying toilet paper over this, what do you think is going to happen the next time?
When you say needles, I assume you don't mean for drugs.
For me, it's for insulin.
Oh, for insulin? Hey, you know what? But sure, think about that. Think about, we often think of, like, in the apocalypse, we often think of those movies, like, You've got what's his name, Viggo Mortensen, who's out there. But that's not how this works. I mean, you have real people that elderly people who need life-saving medical care 24 hours a day. You people with diabetes who need insulin. You have people who need a certain kind of drug every day or every 2 days, or they will literally die or go into cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
And so if stuff goes off like that, that's going to reduce our population by an unbelievable amount.
Yeah,
People don't realize how good we have it in this country.
I'm not entirely sure, but there's one particular medicine that I take that I've ended up with 6 months worth in the fridge.
Hey, there you go.
Not intentionally, but it works out that way, and
that's going to be the next currency.
And there's part of me that's kind of I think God's preparing me, but no, there's just simple things. Honestly,
flour, sugar, yeast. How many people actually think to go buy all of that stuff and stock up on it?
Well, let's be hand soap. Everybody might buy a pack or two when you go to the grocery store, but over this pandemic, if you tried that, you were going to be out a lot because the stores didn't have hand soap.
Well, and I don't know about you, but one of the things that I was pretty good about going to buy food, but I've been pretty healthy for a decade or more, 2 decades or something like that, and I never thought I was going to be able to. I always thought, well, if I need, if I get hurt, if I hurt my arm, I'll be able to just go into the Walgreens and buy a pack of pain medicine. But that's not guaranteed, especially with this whole pandemic coming out of China and China supplying the vast majority of our drugs, or at least the stuff that's needed to make drugs. What guarantee do we have that as things go bad with them that we're going to be able to buy medicine the way we used to?
Yeah. Well, one of the things I found is I ended up needing a shower liner, the plastic inside curtain.
Jelly. Always more jelly.
Yes, always more jelly, always more peanut butter. But I needed a shower curtain. Couldn't find them. Who, just for the record, who during a pandemic says, you know what I need? I need to stock up on shower curtains. But I couldn't find them at the store.
It's okay, though. I learned something about the coronavirus. It's the smartest virus on Earth. It only goes into small businesses. It doesn't go into big corporations like Kroger or Home Depot. It knows that they don't want it there, so it doesn't go there.
Yeah, and the other places it must invite it in or something.
Yeah, they probably had it coming.
But so I would just say, look at what you eat and what you use all the time. Certainly, what you actually used over this pandemic, and start buying a little extra as it's available in the store. But I mean, let's be honest. Soap doesn't go bad. It doesn't have a use-by date. So if you've got 1,000 bars of soap, which, would last for the rest of my lifetime. But if you like your soap and you want to have 1,000 bars of it, you do you. But there's probably more important things to buy. But still, stock up now. Yeah. Mac and cheese. Like I said, I just bought 8 boxes at $1 a piece. Stared hard at the Kroger stuff because it was, I think, 50 cents a box.
Yep.
And I was like,
It is. I have been buying that brand for quite some time. I've never seen it this cheap for this long.
Yeah.
And it's just going to stay that way for quite a while. It's not even, it's at the Kroger I work at, it's 59 cents a box. That's not even on sale.
Yeah. And so it's...
At this point, getting it for $1 a box would be more expensive.
Right. And so now is the time to start stocking up. Don't go out and buy $1,000 worth of food today because that all has use-by dates. And certainly, we'll take Kraft mac and cheese. They went to this all-natural formula. So their use-by dates aren't as far in the future as they used to be.
Well, and keep in mind that even some of the canned foods are not, the use-by dates are not as far in the future as you would think. Because a lot of people think, well, I can't buy the raw chicken, but I can buy canned chicken and I can leave it on my shelf for 25 years. No, you can't. That's not, some foods cannot be canned like that.
Now, to be fair, a lot of your canned foods, if it's not the Pop-Top cans...
Right. That will last you a long
It will last a long time to the point where when you open it, it might, your green beans might be white. They'll still be edible.
But you just won't enjoy it.
Yeah, you're not going to enjoy, white, greasy green beans. But they're still good.
You still eat them.
Yeah.
Another thing we need to learn is, I think, we need to make sure we educate ourselves. Because, so, funny story. When my grandpa moved out of his house, I lived with my grandpa for, I think, 4 years or 5 years or something like that. But when I moved out, he moved out to live with my parents, and I moved into my own house. But one of the things we had to do, and if any of you have ever done this, you know what the nightmare is of going into an old person's house that they've lived in for 50 years to clean it out for the next person to come in. Like, that is a special kind of trauma right there.
Yeah.
And I remember looking into his fridge for the first time, because I didn't use his fridge. I had my own mini fridge downstairs in the basement, because, I lived in my grandpa's basement. Yeah, go ahead and make the jokes. Don't say it. It's fine. But I looked in his fridge, and like, I think this was what, like 20. When did you help me move into my house? Like 2000.
That was 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2018.
Maybe 3, at most 3.
Yeah, it was like 2017, 2018. Doesn't matter, because it was equally atrocious when I looked into his fridge and I saw like barbecue sauce that was from 2001.
When I was sorting through my dad's cabinets, I came across an open bag of croutons.
Oh no.
That had moved twice. So from the apartment he had lived in out, or at least once, from the apartment out to the house. And I think it was actually from a house he had rented to the apartment out there. Let's keep in mind, this was in the early 2000s. Expiration date, like 1986.
Oh, dear Lord.
It was. I think they were old enough to drive, honestly, and he still had them. And
each one of them,
yes.
the croutons.
They're sort of a symbiotic being. They're a hive mind.
I bet by then they were.
Yeah, they gained sentience and knew the mysteries of the universe. So
reminds me of a Netflix special I saw.
And so that's another thing. Don't buy stuff you're not going to eat or you're not going to use. If it's not stuff you use all the time, you're just wasting money. And if you want to waste money, just give it to me. I have more experience at it, and I can do it better.
It's true.
Just give me the money. I'll waste it on stuff that I want, and you can just say, yay, I got nothing out of this. Which is going to be the same as if you buy something, and it sits in your cabinet to be an inheritance for your children.
Yes. That's not an exaggeration.
It's not.
I bet, I'm sure you got lots of wonderful things from your dad as an inheritance.
I did, but the croutons aren't on the wonderful list.
No. But hey, at least he left you something.
Oh,
I wonder what my parents will leave me when they're gone. I do wonder. I don't know that croutons will be there.
Well, but
you never know. You should have kept those, because maybe one day in the very near future they'll become a delicacy. And it won't matter how old they are. People will be like, oh, you have croutons. Can I at least look at them? Can I just see what they look like?
Like they open the bag like it's wine and they sniff it like, oh, 1986 vintage. That was a good year.
That was a good year.
And I'm
back when we had croutons.
It's stale bread.
Can you tell us about those days, please? I don't remember. My kids don't even know.
Back in the before days.
In the before times.
When the croutons were made.
Back when America was one country and we weren't 5 separate nations.
Back before the aliens came.
That's what we don't realize, is that this whole pandemic and like the whole thing, like, it's all just aliens.
Well, that's something we should talk about at some point. Like in the middle of this pandemic, the government actually releases video of UFOs and goes, "Yeah, UFOs actually exist." Bye, and just kind of sort of wanders off while everybody's like, "Can I catch the COVID from the delivery guy?" And I'm like,
Hey, just so you know, there were aliens. That was what happened. They were just like, aliens, just FYI.
So is there anything else we want to cover on this subject?
I don't know. I kind of want to talk about bug out bags, because if we're talking about being preppers and whatnot, Also, I would like to point out, not to go full MAGA on everybody, but if we're going to prep, I noticed that when I went in to buy ammunition for my weapons, I have a couple different kinds. I need 3 different kinds of ammunition for the weapons in my house. And the one that's most common was absolutely gone, and to my knowledge is still gone.
Well,
and so I would advise, because people are buying guns like nobody's business right now.
Yeah, there's been like 6 million units sold in the last couple months.
That's fine. But yeah, I would advise that if you're going to buy a gun, buy one that's not in one of the more common calibers, and I guess we can talk about that at some point later if we want to. But buy one that's not one of the more common calibers, so that you don't go into a store and try to buy the ammunition for that gun in a pinch and not find it. Because there are certain shelves that when I went into like Cabela's the other day were like the 9mm was gone, the 12 gauge was kind of there. There was like 2 boxes left. The 22 was gone. 22 long rifle was gone. But there was like absolutely gobs and gobs of a bunch of other kinds of ammunition. Like 30-06 was there. 226 was there. There's plenty of it. And so, I mean, now...
223.
Sorry, gosh dang it. Why do I keep doing that? 223 was there. Now, actually, honestly, I was surprised that the 223 was there because so many people want ARs right now that I was thinking there wouldn't be much 223 left.
Right.
But there was plenty of it in Cabela's when I went there, and so I was wondering maybe if they had just gotten a stock in. But like, I feel like I need to buy.
Cabela's was closed for a long time too.
Well, yeah, but still, the moment they opened,
true.
9 was gone.
But I would argue, and again, politics aside, if you're part of prepping is taking control of your own life. It's
sovereign man.
It really kind of.
I do want to talk about book on this podcast at some point because I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, but so the thing is,
I'll put that under episode 2 maybe.
If you're taking care of your family, you're taking care of yourself by having food, medicine, water. Guys, here locally, at least twice, we've had major water breaks where we didn't have water for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
One was after some tornadoes. One was a pipe broke under a river and they couldn't get it cleaned up, get it fixed for days, and we didn't have water. You should always have lots and lots of, like every time you walk in a grocery store, you should buy at least a 24-pack of water every time.
Yep.
But so if you're taking care of that stuff, because as the one verse says, having no chief or leader, there's a famous saying that when seconds count, the police are minutes away.
Yep.
And we would also, I would argue, without getting too much into the politics of it, that certainly events of recent days have shown that the cops showing up isn't always beneficial to everybody involved.
Oh yeah.
So firearms are a thing that, with training, don't just grab one and go, I got me a gun, so I'm good now. No, if you don't know how to use it, you might as well have a stick.
Well, you heard what a recent famous politician said. You don't even need to aim with a shotgun.
Well, yes, and he's clearly never actually held a shotgun in his hand. But,
yes. But
he's watched movies, and that's what happens. And physics.
Well, he can't help but quote John Wayne out of context.
Yeah, well, and weirdly, but so bug out bags or get home bags.
Yes, I like it. I like one. In fact, you had one, and it inspired me to make one. And I hope that we can inspire other people to make them. But like really quick, just explain what is the point of first of all, what's the difference between a bug out bag and a get home bag?
In practice, probably very little. In reality, it's
really kind of where you keep it, I guess.
Well, and it's what your goal is. For me, the bag that I have usually in my truck with me at all times is not meant for me to run off into the mountains and live off the land. Mm. It's to get me back here where all my stuff is. Mm-hmm. So, and again, this isn't like, if I get stuck in the middle of a riot, can I make it home? No, this is, if it's a blizzard and we get 2 feet of snow and my car slides off the road, am I going to, well, there's probably some advice to actually just sit in your car and where it's warm, but how am I getting home? If something happens where I have to get from my work to my house without my car, so I have to walk. Mm-hmm. Now, to be fair, currently my commute is really short, and if I need a bag full of supplies to make it home, things have gone...
There's been one heck of an earthquake.
Yeah, it's like mega apocalyptic. It's not just the normal apocalypse.
Like you're stuck in the space-time continuum somewhere.
Yes, this is like the mega Karen apocalypse. But the idea is to have supplies on you, things that you would need. Because you need like food, water, shelter, and under shelter, I would argue some warmth.
Karens. That's why America's best days are behind us.
There's probably some truth to that. But they'll talk to the manager about it. But so
that's what we should call praying from now on.
A bag It's a bag, either backpack. I use a man purse, a messenger bag.
A messenger bag.
Because
I love that. That's so funny.
Because it fit better, and for a while trying to find a backpack that would fit me.
Did you tell me you had a messenger bag? I don't remember if you did.
I showed it to you, so...
Oh, maybe I just blotted that out of my memory because you said you had one.
So there are things in it that will accomplish getting me home, which means I have stuff to start a fire if I need to, if I'm a long way off, to keep warm. I have a tarp in there so I can build a little tent or some sort of a shelter. You
have water in it?
I don't, but I have water purification tabs and a canteen. Or water. Actually, no. I now have a water filter. A friend of mine,
I have a filtered drinking straw that I need to put in my bug out bag.
A friend of mine got me a life straw.
Nice.
And,
those are really good.
And that went in there. There is a first aid kit. It's not comprehensive. I want to get a better one just because if I get hurt on the way home, I want to be able to fix myself as much as possible and actually make it home. The flip side of this is bug out bag is...
You're getting away from your house to go somewhere else. That's safe.
Yeah, especially here in the suburbs or in town. If you live in a city, I'd recommend not. But just get out now.
Excuse me. Your cat's assaulting me with his presence.
Yes. But
I'm allergic. He's actually I'm gonna actually call that was attempted murder.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if I'm gonna charge you or the cat, but
yeah, he'll care. He really will.
Your cat's very strange.
He is.
He doesn't want any attention
until he does. And then he demands your unconditional subservience. Yes. But so a bug out bag is to get out. Like, honestly, again, not to get political. If you were in a place that had riots and people are burning down buildings around you, do you want to stay there or do you want to be somewhere else?
That is not a hard choice. I would
say most people don't want to be in a burning building,
right?
So they would choose to try to leave.
If you're listening and you right now think, yes, I want to be in a burning building,
seek help.
Yes, go get help. Don't do that. Get some help.
So a bug out bag would be a bag full of equipment to get you out of that situation and it might be where you have to live essentially the homeless lifestyle.
Yeah.
For a few days.
I will say I have I call it my bug out bag or my get home bag. This is one of the reasons why I encourage people to go camping, because going camping and just experiencing what it takes to be out there in the wilderness, whatever you define as quote unquote wilderness.
Right.
Backyard, whatever. Like if you're going to go camping, don't go to your backyard. Or if you're going to go into your backyard to go camping, make it a rule that you can't go inside for 24 hours or something. But the point is to go camping so that you don't have access to running, the typical running water, indoor plumbing, air conditioning, that sort of things. You're not in climate control. You don't have a fridge full of food at your disposal. So I have my get home bag, which has first aid kit, extra blanket, a camping hatchet, ammunition, a machete, that sort of stuff for the fire starter. But then I have a giant camping bag, and it's just a single massive bag with all of my camping equipment in it, and I do it mostly just to save time. When I'm go camping, I just grab it and go camping. But it also functions as I can grab it and just throw it in my trunk and get out of Dodge if I really, really have to. And it's got my hammock, my tent, it has everything I need to.
Everything you need to survive.
To survive, right. The only thing it doesn't have, I even have some extra food for a few days in there. The only thing it absolutely does not have is a guaranteed source of food. That's all it doesn't have. And I figure if I'm leaving, I might, get some... what I probably should do is I should probably withdraw some cash from the bank and put it in my safe. And if I ever have to, seriously bug out, I should grab the cash and go, to the nearest convenience store and just buy a crap ton of food and head out.
Actually, you have just brought up something that anybody should talk about when they're talking about being prepared at this point.
Bury the gold in your backyard.
Nope.
Oh.
For years, all of my life, people talked about having a reserve of cash on hand. So that tornado comes through, wipes out the power and all that, the little credit card machines aren't working, but they'll still take your 20. Well, great idea. You should have cash on hand. Until you get to a situation where there is a virus that may or may not be able to kill you that they think might be spread by touching things. So certain stores actively went into, we do not take cash. Well, then what are you going to do if all you've got in your emergency stash is a wad of 20s? You're going to not be able to buy your stuff. So I would say if you can buy like $100 gift card and have that with you too. So you've got
maybe a gas card so you can make sure you're able to drive places.
Yeah, you've got a stash of cash. You've got a stash of digital money.
Yeah, and you have a stash of physical money.
Right. And so you're fine.
But the point is to be prepared for either situation where either digital or cash money doesn't work.
Right.
And obviously, we talked earlier about how, like, you know, actual actual money doesn't matter beyond a certain point. This would be before that.
Yeah.
If it's just you with the problem and have to get out of that immediate area.
Right. And I would argue, even a lot of places where we have these hurricanes come rolling through, they'll still sell you whatever you want for
That's
cash.
true.
They're just usually going to charge you
$100 for it.
Yeah.
For whatever.
Like $20 for a case of water and that sort of thing. And now there's laws against that, but let's be honest. It's the middle of August. You're say on the coast of Florida when it's 100 degrees, high humidity. The hurricanes have just come through. There's no power. There's barely any like police presence because there's trees blocking everything. Like nobody can get there. Sure, Bob, the grocery store owner, will eventually have to answer for charging $20 per case of water, but that's going to be a while.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, you still need that water, and he's got it. So,
yep.
Bug out bags and stuff. There's a whole lot more to get into prepping, and it doesn't go as far as like the Doomsday Prepper TV show. Like, you can be prepared for reasonable emergencies and not be full Mad Max. I'm preparing for the apocalypse. When do we get to shoot people?
Right.
And I would argue, I mean, yes, you should have some thoughts long term. I cannot think of an area of the United States in particular where there is not the likelihood of some event that could keep you without electricity
for a decent period of time.
For weeks at a time, possibly.
Yeah.
The Midwest, you've got tornadoes. The South, in Southeast, you've got hurricanes. You've out west around California and stuff, you've got
the earthquakes.
Get the earthquakes. Yep. Really, you know,
well,
in the mountains, you've got blizzards.
I would say, and I would argue that in any major city, you can have civil unrest, and in the cities, that is a massive threat.
Well, let's be honest. A tornado hit nowhere near the water treatment plant and knocked out the water treatment plant, so you didn't have water for weeks.
Yep.
You just don't know. Something could happen in gas would know, and I don't mean like automotive gas. I mean natural gas that comes through pipes in the ground. A good earthquake somewhere, and so we can't get that. You can't heat your house. How are you going to heat your house? How are you going to cook your food? You need to know this sort of thing. It's not being paranoid, it's being wise.
And I know what a lot of people could possibly say. I've heard this argument before. Like, you talk about God will provide, and I know that both of us perfectly believe he will. But I think a lot of people would look at people who prep like us and accuse us of not having enough faith in him. Well, and I don't really... I always go back to that story in the Old Testament of Joab and his brother Abishai, where he said that like it was the Assyrians had gone.
That's not an obscure reference at all.
You know, but it was First or Second Samuel. I think it was 2 Samuel 10, because 2 Samuel is when David's actually the king. 1 Samuel is just where he was supposed to be the king. But it's in 2 Samuel 10, and it's Joab and Abishai. Joab's the commander of the armies of King David, of armies of Israel, and the Assyrians and the Ammonites had banded together to defend against David because they were at war. And Joab and Abishai took the mighty men into the army and attacked the city. And I think the Syrians, one side was in the city and the other side was in the open field, and the Israelites were crushed. The armies were crushed between the two enemies. So it says that Joab took half of the army and arrayed it against the Assyrians, and he gave the other half to his brother Abishai and arrayed them against the Ammonites. And he said, If the Assyrians are too strong for me, then I'll call you to come help me, and vice versa. If they're too strong for you, then I'll come to help you. So he laid the battle plan. He made the plan. It was a bad situation. He was making the best of it, and he said, be of good courage and take heart for our people and for the cities of our God, and then may the Lord do what seems good to him. So in that situation, Joab was entirely faithful to his mission and his ministry as commander of the armies of the king. He did what he knew he had to do. He took the actions, and he had faith that God would do whatever was right the whole time. So we're not advocating that you don't have faith in God. We're saying that God has given us resources and expects us to do things with those resources and to exercise the judgment and the brains that he has more than likely given to all of us. So we're supposed to go do that, but all the while trust that he will be working through all of that to accomplish his purposes in us.
Yeah, there's an old preacher story, and preacher stories are the ones that preachers tell, and always seem to imply it's true, but everybody knows it's not actually. But it serves a point. It would be an allegory of sorts, but it talks about man's living in his house and the rain start coming and it starts to flood.
Oh, I've seen that.
And he prays like, God, get me out of the flood. And this redneck rolls by one of those big old jacked up 4x4s and like, hey, hop in, we're getting out of here, it's flooding. He's like, no, God will provide. Oh, okay, and off he drives. Well, water keeps coming up, and now it's, halfway up as the first story. He's kind of up in the second story, and here comes the National Guard on one of their little boats motoring by, and, hey, hop in, we'll take you out of here, we'll save you. He's like, no, God will provide, I'm fine. And finally, he's on the roof. That's all that's left of his house, and the helicopter comes by, and sir, please grab the rope. And he's like, no, God will provide. He'll save me. God, I'm praying. And the water rises. Man drowns. He shows up in heaven, and he's like, God, why didn't you save me? And he's like, I sent you a pickup truck, a boat, and a helicopter. What more did you want? There are times, faith is great. Faith is awesome. I have seen God move miraculously. Actually, literally miraculously in my life and in other people's lives. But if someone's telling you, hey, you should be prepared because bad things are coming. Like, if you read most of the Old Testament, that's every prophet in the book.
Right.
Like, every prophet in the Bible is like, bad things are coming.
Yeah.
Repent and get ready.
And now we look back at that and we're like, oh, that was God speaking to them. How wonderful. But in the moment, that was really just a dude on the street corner yelling at people.
Well, and not only that, but
writing it down.
We look back at, like, wow, if God did that to me, I'd listen. Okay, I don't know that it's God saying be prepared, but at this point, it's going to be rough. There are any number of things that can interrupt the ability for you to get food, water, etc. Prepare. Now, something I want to be clear on, because there's always that one person that is like, but we could have an earthquake on the San
Andreas fault line,
the New Madrid fault. We could have tornadoes. We could have flood. Oh, we're all going to die. Why?
You're causing a panic.
Don't fear. God's got it all in his hands. We've made it through. We've made it through the pandemic. We're going to make it through the current turmoil, and it's going to keep going. If you're a believer, God's got his hand on you, and the absolute worst that happens is you end up in heaven.
Really? Yeah.
If you're not a believer, may I recommend it, first of all. It's not necessarily going to make your life easier. In fact, Jesus is pretty clear that it'll make your life harder. But if you know that if your house is swept away by a tornado, you're not going to heaven, you should change that now. So don't be afraid. Don't freak out over all the things that can go wrong. Like, there's people that literally are freaked out because there's an asteroid that's going to come close to the Earth. Like, no, just take a deep breath. You cannot prepare for everything. There's always going to be something,
right,
that takes.
Yeah. Well, and keep in mind, like, on that note, we're talking about all these different possibilities, but we're also working under the assumption that not every single one of them is going to occur at the same time. Because I guarantee you, my bug out bag, your bug out bag, is not going to get you through an earthquake, a tornado, a hurricane, a riot, and an asteroid. It might get you through one of those for a little while, but like there's nowhere. The only people in the world that I think could even hope to begin to address a situation like that would be the government in their super secret mountain bunker with like 100,000 years of seed stores or whatever. So there's no way you can do that without the resources of a nation behind you and get ready for all of that at the same time. And even then, I would argue that our country probably wouldn't be able to do it anyway.
Well, there also comes a point where the saying, like, it's God's will is accurate.
You just got to sit back and let it happen.
At some point, you've prepared everything you reasonably can. Because let's be honest, if you're spending millions of dollars building your bunker and you're letting your neighbors starve, or the people of the town you live in starve because you're not giving to the food bank, if you've got those millions of dollars to do that, Jesus is probably going to have more to say to you about, I was hungry and you didn't feed me, than he's going to about, hey, that's a pretty nifty bunker you got. At some point, you just got to prepare what you can. Have extra food, extra supplies, so you can help those people that need it.
Well, and even then, Jesus was in a bunker, and he got bored after 3 days and left.
Yeah. This pandemic, there were lots of older people that couldn't buy food. They only get a check once a month. So have extra food so you can go to that neighbor in a situation like this, or where there's tornadoes or hurricanes or whatever, and say, hey, Mrs. Busybody or whoever,
it's a stereotype.
Are you doing okay? Do you need anything? And you can help them. You can help your own family. Otherwise, you're one of the ones screaming, come help us. We can't do anything. Then
you're a burden. You're not an asset.
Well, not only that, but
That sounds like really. I'm really close to saying you're not part of the solution. You're part of the problem. But that's not what I mean.
But it's very much. Then your life is in someone else's hands, and on some level, all of ours are because of God. But,
it's always in God's hands. But still,
the thing is,
I'm a big believer in being independent of other people while being dependent upon God.
Well, and let's be honest, people are stupid. Like in general. Individuals are smart. As a group, we're dumb. We do stupid things.
Was it that George Carlin said, think of how dumb you think everyone is, now realize that half of them are even dumber than that?
Right. So, if you're waiting for that other person, whoever that other person is, now if you're a kid, yes, you're going to have to wait for your mom and dad to get prepared, but I would start, hey, Mom, why don't we start doing this? But if you're expecting someone else to save you instead of their own family or their own selves, you've really misjudged human nature, and it could cost you in a time when you can't afford to pay.
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't look pretty.
No.
That's to clarify. That's death.
Well, that's when you get
or something very similar.
When you get 15,000 people living in the whatever dome down in New Orleans with no food or water getting to them, because that's where all the government told them, like city, state, everybody went, go to the dome, you'll be safe there. Well, yeah, you're kind of safe-ish, but no food, no water, no place to crap.
Well, and honestly, not much protection either.
There really wasn't. No,
there was crime.
There was
beyond crime in that place,
but
for a long time.
So, I mean, that's pretty much all I've got on this. I think we've gone longer than probably we should have.
Yeah, we're about almost an hour and a half, which usually we'll try to keep these to about an hour, but I anticipate we will very rarely go under an hour.
Yeah.
I'm kind of okay with it as long as it's not like over an hour and a half.
And this is probably a little more scripted, and it's really not scripted, but a little more scripted than normal. Like you're kind of getting a sneak peek into the way he and I talk to each other all the time. And
wait till we actually start to argue about stuff.
Yeah,
that's gonna be more than
it'll be. So,
especially when we get to so like what were we gonna originally call this podcast? Like, what was it gonna be, like man talk, like guns, theology, politics, and other random crap? Yeah. I mean, I'm glad we're going to call it something else, but if I wanted to give a description of it, that's probably what it would be.
Yeah, that should be the description of it, no matter what. There's all sorts of things to talk about theologically, physically, culturally...
Because we like the non-controversial stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
Actually, you like if you're listening to this now, we had a really long conversation earlier today because given everything that's going on currently socially, we had a very long conversation about what we do and don't want to talk about, given our position in where we're at, what we're doing. We had a long talk about what will we talk about today, and that's not to say that we want to purposefully avoid controversy, because I think anyone who knows both of us knows that's not really how we operate. That's not how we do things. And so we will at some point be touching on highly controversial cultural, social, and political and religious topics, and we're not going to really be afraid to do that. But we want to do it in a way as in as
we're not trying to offend. We're trying to discuss.
Right, and we know that there's no way to discuss without offending somebody, but we're not out to do it on purpose.
Right,
and as much as possible, it might be a little bit difficult with the two of us because for you and I to offend each other is
really hard.
It's it may as well be a bucket list item because of how difficult it is. So I don't know.
So there are going to be times where it's
we won't offend each other, but we may offend somebody else.
Right,
and I'm not going to apologize in advance because I don't believe in apologizing just for offending people. I think maybe there are times where I have offended people that I should apologize, but just because someone is offended doesn't make it wrong.
Well, true. I mean, truth is truth, even if you don't like it. But
right.
But there are also ways to say it and all that. But
just like First or Second Peter, the Bible verse for the debate club. Always be ready to give a reason for the hope that is within you, but do it with gentleness and respect, so that when people revile you, they may be ashamed.
Yeah.
So we want to treat things properly, and I think we can balance each other out that way because we're basically the same, except you have a few more years on me, and therefore I'm more of a filter for most things.
Yes.
In terms of when to say something and what to say about it. So, I don't know. I might do a couple on my own, but I don't know if
it's not my fault.
It's not. That's it. He is not responsible for those opinions.
You can blame me for me, but he's not my fault.
That's right. He's not my parent, so it's not his fault.
In any way, shape, or form.
In any way, no.
All right.
Well, we'll leave off with that. The reference from the Genesis 41 passage. It'll be a bit of a longer passage, but I want to leave off with that. Just kind of leave it with the attitude of it. Genesis 41:29. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them there will arise 7 years of famine. And all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land, and the plenty will be unknown in the land by reason of the famine that will follow, for it will be very severe. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dream means this thing is fixed by God, and God will shortly bring it about. Now therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land. Take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years, and let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming, and store up the grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. That food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land, so that the land may not perish through famine. So there you go. You have God revealing something. You have God telling people to prepare. He's not going to make bread for them. He's not going to miraculously multiply their stores. He's saying, it's coming, prepare. I've told you. Now it's up to you to be wise about it. So, all right. That's episode 1 of Kitchen Table Talks. I guess we'll see or hear. You'll hear from us or whatever. Episode 2.
Later.
Later. I'm not going to say a week.
Yeah, we don't know when.
We don't know when.
But soon.
All right. Have a good day. We'll be in prayer for you. If you want to comment on what you would like us to pray for you for, or anything that you want us to say, I'm not going to promise we'll answer comments or whatever, maybe on a case-by-case basis, but is there any way people could be praying for us, do you think? Do we want
to... always. Just wisdom and just pray for us in general.
Yeah, I agree. I would say, I'm starting a new journey. I'm looking at starting my own business at some point soon, hopefully, and I'm trying to save money. So, I don't know. Yeah, pray for wisdom. And I would also argue, we just last night, my girlfriend and I went to a big prayer thing at her church, and I would say, pray for the country.
Right. Oh, certainly.
Pray for everything.
Pray for peace.
Pray for wisdom and peace in this country,
and justice and all that.
Justice, unity, and all the good things.
Yes.
Have a good day, guys. Bye.
Bye.